The 6th episode of Andor has dropped on Disney+, so let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your thoughts on the latest episode of Andor, as well as the 3-episode arc structure that they've been using up to this point in time. This is a spoiler review, so feel free to spoil away down below in the comment section. And if you haven't watched the episode yet, you have been warned, and let's get started with the review. And for me, this was another great episode of the show. Clearly, at this point in time, they're doing these 3-episode arcs where they really build tension, set everything up for 2 episodes, and then give these kind of slam-bang 3rd episode finales. And our second arc in the mix was this heist. And so this is the episode where you actually get to see the heist with all the stakes, all the twists, the turns, who was and was not committed to the mission, all of that fun stuff, and some big, exciting Star Wars action. And I just think that this is the model right here that a lot of these streaming shows, actually a lot of shows in general, probably should follow. Back years when I was a big fan of Arrowverse when it first started, and then they started to really burn through a lot of villains, and I proposed for The Flash that they should do this type of structure where you have a villain show up for 3 or 4 episodes and you kind of tell this arc that doesn't take a whole season, it doesn't even take half a season, but just a few episodes that you could flesh things out, set things up, and then pay it off and not just burn through villains so quickly and plot lines. And this show's doing it, and I think it's really working. All that said, I would guess that these 3-episode arcs would play better if they were released all at the same time. So pick a month with 4 Wednesdays, and you have Andor October or whatever, and you just drop each of these 3-episode arcs on the Wednesdays as opposed to stretching it out for 2-3 months. I think you'll lose some people because you have 2 episodes that when you just watch them by themselves, they feel slow, they feel a little bit meandering. I saw some people calling last week's episode filler, and I don't know that I agree with any of that, but I understand the feeling. I understand that if you just kind of go in and watch episode 4 and you go, okay, yeah, we're setting up the next thing, and then episode 5 is, okay, we're really setting up the next thing and creating some tensions amongst the team, but okay, when's something going to kick in? And then all the payoff is in the 3rd episode of the arc, episode 6. I can see why that would strain some people's patience when you have to wait 2 weeks to really kind of see what's going to happen with it. So I've been saying this with a lot of these streaming services that they need to experiment more with their release models and line up the release model to the nature of the storytelling. I heard somebody say this on Twitter, but perhaps this is a show that would have worked better as 4 TV movies. That'd be kind of cool. And you stop and think. Stranger Things 4, they just were putting out episodes that were 2.5 hours long. These episodes are like 40 minutes long. This was like 50 minutes long. So 2 hours and 15 minutes of these little arcs. 4 of these like heist, spy, espionage, thriller, Star Wars movies. That could be pretty cool. But anyway, just in general, it's continuing to do everything that I enjoyed about the first set of episodes that they dropped, where you're like slowly getting to know these characters. And they're not simple. It's not clear who's good, who's bad. Even these guys that are jerk Imperials, we get to meet their family and see that there's a human behind the Imperial officer. There's a person in there with a backstory and people that they love and care about. And likewise, our people that are members of the rebellion, they do some very shady things. They do some highly questionable things. And, we've had Andor on multiple occasions kill people in cold blood that he doesn't necessarily have to kill. But he's comfortable killing them. He's pretty okay just killing someone in cold blood if that's what he thinks he needs to do in that moment. Which we knew from Rogue One That's the first thing we see him do. But they're showing him right in the middle of all of this. That's kind of built into who Andor is. So you have a empire that's doing awful things and people that seem totally fine with doing awful things, but that doesn't mean they're not a human when they go back home. Doesn't mean they don't have kids, a wife. And then you have people that are trying to stop this evil government that's just oppressing the galaxy. That doesn't mean they're in the process of doing that. They're doing a lot of really shady, questionable things. And then just beyond that, as kind of speaking in general, kind of walk through some specifics after this, but you just get cool Star Wars action that stands out. And this is one of the things I mentioned in my discussion of the first 3 episodes, is that you get this shootout in the episode 3 where they're in this room with chains and they're trying to escape. And it felt different and interesting. Like, I hadn't seen that in Star Wars before, and I just in general hadn't seen that exact action sequence before. And you just contrast that with almost every single action sequence in Obi-Wan. And Obi-Wan, it just feels like we've seen these people running through Imperial corridors shooting all the time. And here we are breaking into an Imperial base. That was my criticism of so much of Obi-Wan, and actually so much of Mandalorian too, of like, once again, we're breaking into an Imperial base and having a shootout in Imperial corridors. This episode, at face value, is the thing that I said that they've done a million times before, but it doesn't feel like what we've ever done before, because it's plays out like an actual heist. Not just, Obi-Wan, like, we need to go into that base. So they just walk in, immediately find the person they need to get, and then they try and get out, and there's action, and there's none of that tension. None of the suspense of will the plan work, because there isn't really even a plan that's been discussed. And here they played out, and it feels fresh and new because there's actual stakes and consequences and multiple things happening that have to go right. And as they start to fall apart, you feel the tension start to grow, building to the shootout. And so it matters. And you know why, like, you care about the characters. There's enough people that there's actual good guys that are on our side that die. And that you just didn't get that with Obi-Wan. And then likewise, then when they're escaping, you get a bit of a, big flashy CGI escape sequence. But once again, there's like little layers to it of the guy flying doesn't even know where he's supposed to go or how he's supposed to navigate this thing. The person that does have that information is not in very good of shape. And it's just a new thing that we haven't seen before. So often, we need to fly out of here. So there's a starfield behind them, TIE fighters, and they're just doing this. Up and down, trying to not get shot, and then they go to hyperspace. We've seen that so many times before. Here, they have this whole other thing kind of going on that ties into the plot of why they chose to do it at this moment in time. So it's interesting looking. It's a different set of conflicts while still being rebels trying to escape TIE fighters when they're outnumbered. I just found little ways to make it fresh and new all along the way. So to kind of walk through real quickly, trying to think through anything I kind of missed in there, trying to dive into the real specifics and not speak in generalities as I've been doing. The episode kicks off and we have Andor talking with the youngest member of their team, just kind of sitting there and talking about their anxiety for the mission. And this little kid guy, he's like, I didn't sleep last night. Like, I'm thinking through everything that's going to happen, and you slept just fine. And you kind of have Andor, who's spent a lot of time in conflict and battle before, just kind of reassuring, like, hey, it'll be fine. Once you get going, the adrenaline kicks in, you'll have the energy. And you just have that moment where you just kind of pause to, like, remind us that Andor is the hired gun because he actually has skills, and the rest of them don't have very many skills in everything that they're trying to do. And we kind of dive into it pretty quickly, and we're introduced to kind of I don't know if we probably saw him in the last couple episodes at least a little bit, but the guy that's over this base and just kind of talking about their plan and the locals and just casually discussing how they manipulated these people to gain access to their land and just subtly crush them of their will and their religious beliefs, and having them jump through too many hoops to make it worthwhile, to where now only 60 people come to follow through on their tradition, where it's just massively more than that. And just trying to put that little thing in there of reminding us that why the rebels are doing this, why someone has to fight back, and just this calloused mindset of approaching everything is their own, just entitled to all these lands and don't care about the people that are actually there serving them, making things better. They just looking for more things to take. And just like casually just saying all of it. And then you see this guy kind of go back to his family, or there's a scene later on where he's like trying to put on his suit and his belt doesn't fit quite right, and he gets in a conversation with his wife, and you like realize that like he's a guy. And not that this is surprising to learn that all of these Imperial officers and all these Star Wars movies and TV shows we're watching are people, but it just gives us that little moment where you remove them from the Imperial meetings, battles, the bridge of a starship, remove them from that and put them in their quarters with their family. And it just, you don't even have to do much there. You don't have to like dive into his backstory. It just reminds the audience like, oh yeah, they're people that have decades of life that led to this moment where they're doing all these terrible things. And even as awful as they may be, and as much as they might be on the wrong side in what they're doing, they're people that are trying to take care of families, and they have loved ones. And I don't know how much we've even seen this side of Imperial officers before. That's one of the things that I really enjoy about this show, is that it gives us those little moments. As a consequence of, it's not super fast paced. Well, it's not fast paced. It's very slow paced intentionally. It's very much a slow burn of setting things up so you care about them. But this little moment right here, the guy has a family, is really important for what's about to go down with this mission, this heist that's going to take place. It's like built into everything that they're trying to do, is this little moment that he's a person that has family members, people that he cares about. So, mission goes underway, and they kind of slowly show how our rebels sneak into this little unit, and we see the tribes people happening, and we see the little signs of the eye event that's about to take place. And, don't have to go into all the specifics, but you can tell, like, there's a lot of, like, anxiousness amongst our rebels. Even the lead lady, she's kind of delays a little bit. She's very actually hesitant to pull the trigger and do it. There's a moment where she's, like, sitting there just checking everything and has to be told, like, you're just delaying. You're just stalling. Are we doing this? And everyone's pausing for a moment. And it once again adds in that humanity to it of these are people doing something, knowing that they could die. You watch so much of Star Wars, Obi-Wan, a Mandalorian, people are like, oh yeah, we got to break into the base. Let's just run in there. Pew, 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 pew. And no one pauses to like ponder their own mortality. The fact that this is like, yeah, I could die. I could be about to kill people. This is a big deal. You're just kind of like every day. Of course you get into shootouts and your friends die around you and you shoot a bunch of stormtroopers. Who cares? Whatever. Just go for it. And this, you pause to learn that rebel, Imperial officer, he's got a family. This leader of this little rebellion mission, she's actually really anxious and nervous. We pause for a second just to point out, like, that guy over there that's leading this section of this mission, he used to be a stormtrooper. And for that reason, a bunch of people really didn't like him, and they didn't want him on this mission because he killed their family. But that's also the reason he's doing this. He was a part of the worst atrocities of the Empire. So he doesn't care if he dies in pursuit of stopping it. That's what he wants to do. That's all fine by him. I need to stop the Empire. They took me, they turned me into this monster killing people. Just pauses to put the humanity on everybody. So mission goes underway, and the first kind of things that happens as soon as Imperial guy with his family walk inside, they lock the doors and they start pointing guns at a kid and a mother, a wife. They're not Imperials. They're, at least I guess in a sense maybe they are. They're part of the Imperial family, but that's a wife and that's a kid. She's just married to that guy, and she's just the son of them. They got blasters pointed at their heads. And the way this plays out, that the first person that the rebels kill on this heist, the first person that gets killed, as soon as this all goes down, they point a gun at a kid's head. One of the Imperials pulls out his gun and points it at one of the rebels and says, "Let the kid go. let the kid go. He doesn't say, let us go. He doesn't say, you fools. Like the guy, Imperial guy that's in charge of all this, he's still kind of being like, how dare you? You'll never get away with this. What do you think you're doing? You can't do this. Just lying about everything, trying to survive that way. But the guy that is about to be killed is saying, let the kid go. Let the kid go. Andor's like, no one has to die. No one has to die. And then the other ladies come in, shoot and kill the guy for pleading for a child's life. And he's put that moral ambiguity in the mix that just because they're Imperial doesn't mean everything they do is evil. Doesn't mean that they don't care about kids. It's so much of Star Wars is just black and white. It's kind of the fun of it because it's just kind of classic good versus evil. And then you tell this story about rebellion and realizing that rebels are terrorists. They are, but they're being terrorists against a very evil government that's what you have to do to stop this government. Part of the process, there's things that are very much in the gray zone. Let that kid go. You want us to let that kid go? You die. And like, just remember this moment, all the people that kind of die in the process, all this, the way it kind of plays out when we loop back around to the very last shot of the episode. I'll try to remember that. But the last thing that happens, we saw all the gray areas, moral ambiguity, the death, the way that people died. And you get to the big final shot of the episode. That's interesting. The way that scene plays in light of this. Let the kid go. You die for advocating for us not taking a kid hostage. So this all goes underway that someone has to stay behind watching the kid, a few officers, and the wife. And if anything goes wrong, kill them. Kill the kid. If anything goes wrong, they go down below and have a bunch of Imperials loading up all of this money into this other ship. And in the process of all of this, it kind of some signals start going off, the comms go down, lights turn off, something's like, clearly something funky's going on here, and some guy starts trying to investigate, like there was a definitely alarm going off, comms are down, we need to do our job, let's look into this. We grab some people who are not happy to be grabbed as this ceremony starts, and you're seeing little things happening. They run downstairs to try and stop all of this, and by the time they actually are in the vault, Imperial officer boss guy with the wife and kids, like he's kind of had a change of, like, not change of heart, but like he started to realize, like, oh, this is really happening. I can't stall. They're really doing this. They really have my family. Like, this is going down right now. And so he's like pushing a cart, like he's all in the whole process of it. Like he stops fighting at certain points in time where he realizes this is the real deal. And then eventually the traitor officer that's with the rebels, but he's actually still been positioned at the Imperial base this whole time. He shows up. An Imperial officer guy like looks at him like, how dare, like they will hang you for this. And the guy just like says, like, you know, serving 7 years with you, I deserve far worse. And you just have that moment of like realizing like that this is going down because that officer guy right there has been making them do horrible things. Callously, without concern, just doing it, not even pausing to think about it. That's the entire reason why he went to the rebellion. And you almost think like the officer guys just seem to have a little bit of a things going off in his head of like pausing just a moment to reconsider things. There's a little moment before they went downstairs where officer guys, you're going to kill all of us anyway. And the rebel leader lady goes, that's what you would do. If you let us take what we want, you'll all be fine. We'll let you go. You kill everyone. You do that, not us. And you have this little conversation where it reveals who the traitor amongst the Imperials is. He's like, they'll hang you for this. 7 years serving with you? What you do? I deserve worse. There's just kind of a couple moments in there that just kind of like, maybe he's hearing just a little bit of it. Understanding just a little bit of what's kind of going on here. But eventually, Imperial dudes that can tell something's up, they run into the room, aim their guns at everybody. Clearly something fishy's going on here. And the traitor guy, Imperial Rebel traitor guy, he's like, hey, it's a secret mission. You got to get out of here. You're not supposed to see this. Clearly that something's not right about everything going on here. And Imperial leader guy doesn't want to betray his people, but he's also like, doesn't want to die, doesn't want to get his family killed. So he's just kind of like stalled in silence. Eventually just has like a heart attack, falls over, grabbing his chest, shootout unfolds, in which case we lose about half of our rebels in the process of all of this. And the people that do escape barely escape. Some people die trying to help other people, just people getting mowed down. Former stormtrooper guy, Imperial traitor rebel guy just gets shot. And last second, they're able to get into the ship and take off. Even someone like ran in and pointing a gun at Andor, big fight unfolds. They barely are able to escape out of this. Nothing is secured. So as they're shooting out of it, some of their credits just fly backwards and squish the kid. Crush him. As they're leaving, and they're able to free him just a little bit. But, so he's able to kind of join just a little bit. You just pause for a second there of just that little detail. It's not that he got shot. It's not that he was shot. It wasn't that the Imperial shot him. It wasn't anything like that. It's just the reality of if you suddenly throw a bunch of stuff in that's really heavy and don't secure it and then take off really fast, that has consequences. When you haphazardly rush out of somewhere, that has consequences. Those little details, that's the stuff that makes this show more interesting, that kind of makes it this more mature version of Star Wars, where anyone that's worked construction, anyone that's spent time moving things, yeah, you have to secure things. If you don't, you have problems. I delivered paint for the first 2.5 years that I was growing this channel. I literally loaded up paint in a paint truck. And on one occasion, like I was in the middle of moving pallets and stuff, and I started to lift up one of my pallets with my pallet jack, and then I needed to move my truck, so I jumped in the front to pull forward just 4 or 5 feet. 4 or 5 feet. Just a little bit. I just needed to pull forward just a little bit so they could get the forklift where I needed to go. But I had just jacked up a pallet. So moving just 3-4 feet forward, the pallet shot out of the back of the truck. Blew up paint everywhere. And luckily I didn't get in trouble or anything for that. They were able to like salvage all the paint. They didn't really care about it. But it's like, that could have hurt someone. That could have cost hundreds, thousands of dollars worth of paint, because I just had this little moment of like, I'm doing too many things at once, got a pallet ready to move it, but it wasn't secured anymore. And then I moved the truck, so it flew out the back. They didn't secure all their credits because they just had to get out of there. And so just a little accident, a little moment, just things weren't secured. And that's one of the reasons someone dies. He made it onto the ship that got out of there. The ship was able to get out of there. Imperials weren't able to follow them, but they didn't secure the money. And that has consequences. Like, that's when you're thinking about actual events and what happens. And everything's dangerous in this situation. Not just people shooting ray guns at you, not just TIE fighters. All of these, so many things can go wrong. They didn't secure things. Someone gets seriously injured in the process. But once again, he doesn't die just yet. He's jacked up really bad. And he's the person that is able to use one of the things to be able to get the information to be able to escape. And so they just add that little conflict as they're trying to escape of Andor knows very little, but he knows how to fly a ship. So he's flying the ship. The person that knows how to navigate getting out of here and where they're supposed to go is dying. And so you just add those little conflicts in there so it's interesting. It's not just, can we run through the corridor without getting shot? Can we shoot all the stormtroopers? Can we get to hyperspace? We've seen that a million times. So they find that new conflict. And it's not caused by someone getting shot. It's caused because they didn't secure the stuff they were transporting. And now this guy's desperately trying to say what he can before he passes out or dies. Conflict, tension, earned, well thought out action sequences. That's what makes this show very cool. And so eventually they get past all of this, and they have this little moment where they're trying to decide where to go where as this kid's dying. And they have a doctor they can go to, but Rebel mission leader ladies doesn't want to take him to the doctor because she doesn't want to compromise the mission. You stop and think about that. The person in charge of the good guys is just going to not even give this kid a chance to survive because she doesn't want to compromise the mission and getting the money to the person she needs to get the money to. So that's not great. That's not, that sounds pretty cruel and messed up. That's like what I think the show does so well is, of course you want the rebels to succeed and get the money to the right place, but you don't want to do it doing something so calloused and cold that this kid that just sacrificed himself on this mission just got crushed. You just let him die for the mission? That's what she's willing to do, and that's the cost that she's willing to pay to stop the Empire. But our other friend over here convinces Andor, like, no, she's just going to let this kid die. We need to go over there. So Andor's like, we're going to go to the doctor. So they go to the doctor. Doctor's working, and while they're outside, the guy that kept thinking that Andor was the traitor that was going to turn on them, that was responsible for revealing the fact that Andor is a mercenary. He's like, hey man, we got 80 million credits or whatever, 40 million apiece. We can live off that. I can't fly this thing. You can fly it. I can get us somewhere secure. Let's just grab it and go. Let's grab, like, we took that kid to the hospital doctor person. My computer went into screensaver mode. We tried to save the kid. We did what we could do. Hey, let's get our money and go. And Andrew's like, I thought you were a rebel. He's like, hey, I'm a rebel, but I'm a rebel for myself. I'm not like a rebel with a cause. A rebel without a cause. Let's just take the money and go. And the guy just keep going. And he's like, I've known, man, me and you, we're the same. Like, I got you pegged from the very beginning. We're on the same page. You're a mercenary. That's why I was doing all that stuff. I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page. And Andrew boom, just shoots the guy. Just cold blood for years and years and years and years and years. Star Wars is debating, who shot first, Han or Guido? Like, Guido, who shot first? And then we have this character Andor, and they repeatedly make it clear he shoots first. No ambiguity here. We don't even need to debate the fact. He just, boom, shot the guy. He doesn't say, I'm going to turn you in. He doesn't say anything like that. He goes, this guy's a problem. Boom. He's gone. Shoots him. And then he's about to go into the tent, and it's kind of revealed that the kid didn't make it. But they tried, and it didn't work. And you have to have this little, like, even pause on this little moment here that they decide to go to the doctor. Rebel leader later didn't want to go. She didn't want to go here. She didn't want to do this. But she's right there by the kid's side. She doesn't fight the decision. She didn't want to do it. She doesn't fight the decision. She's right there by the kid's side, just like, oh man, he didn't make it. You just can't realize, like, that nuance and complexity of people, where they're not just hard line with this or that. Are you for this or are you for that? Like, no. People are complex, even in the world of Star Wars. So she's right there by his side. Andor walks in, gun pulled. We know what just happened and kind of a little bit of what he's thinking, why he's responding like this. She doesn't know exactly what's going on here. So all she knows is he walked in with a gun, and they got 80 million credits over there in the ship that he can fly and she can't. And so she's immediately like, I knew it. We shouldn't have trusted you. He's like, it's not what you think. So where's that other guy? I shot and killed him. Like, what do you mean he was going to steal you? He was going to rob you? And she's like, he would never do that. And then pretty quickly, he's able to change her mind. Like, all I want is the money I was promised. You get everything else. You get the freighter. You get the credits. More importantly, you get this thing. If I was doing this to steal, to rob you, to cheat you, I wouldn't give you this back. Gives it back. And immediately it's like, wait, if this guy's being shady, this is a weird way to be shady. He's literally just gave me a thing worth a whole bunch of credits. Like, you can have it back. You can take it. All I want is the money I was due. And then he's like, I need to go. And then he's like, here, he wanted you to have this. His little, I guess, ledger. And it's like one of those ones I'm assuming that's going to tie back into the story about his daughter, or his sister, not daughter, sister. So he gets probably going to have information about that. But episode, as for this little plot line right here, it closes out with Andor getting this booklet. Hey, you got your money. You take it. You're good. I did my part. We're going to leave. And it doesn't really even tease exactly what's next. It gives you the thing that's probably going to guide what's next. And if that means he's going to read something in here, that he's going to learn where to go to find his sister, if that means he's going to read something in there and go back to our Skarsgård friend to figure out what needs to happen next. But I was kind of wondering if they're going to give us a more clear tease, but I think it's almost a little bit better to have this very ambiguous one of like, he wanted you to have this. As soon as the necklace is handed back, here, he wanted you to have this. It leaves it on that note. Kicking off our next little arc that we're going to do. So then we got to get a little epilogue where we see the galactic response to all of this. And you have Mon Mothma giving this impassioned speech to the Senate, and everyone is just like reading something, looking at something. What's going on here? And then she pulls up her iPad and reads what just happened. Oh, something's going on. Cut to our Skarsgård friend is working his little job, playing his charismatic salesman character, and someone says, hey, do you have any relics from this planet over here? And you have this moment where he hears the name of that planet, and he's like, oh crap, am I caught? Is this about to go down? Is everything about to crumble? And he goes, it's all over the news. They just got attacked. He goes, let me go look into that. Walks in back. The episode closes out, and the guy's laughing. Laughing with joy. This is exactly what he wanted. Everyone is talking about the Empire being attacked. They're vulnerable. They're not impenetrable. You can beat them a little bit. You can be victorious. So he just starts laughing with joy that we got him. But you have to, remember, though, that little moment there, he's laughing of joy at all this. The cost to get to that moment. A guy's like, let the kid go. You're going to die for advocating for a kid. The youngest member of our little rebellion squad, he just gets crushed just because they didn't secure something. They take him to a doctor. He doesn't make it. Everyone, all but, I guess 3 people from the team died. One of them's still on the planet. I guess we don't know where she went. But of the people that were supposed to get out of there, only 2 of them survived. Only one of the real committed rebel people survived. And he's laughing. Now, that's not, he doesn't know all the information of everyone. He doesn't have the information that we have. He just knows that we won. Whether we got the money or not, everyone knows you can strike back. You can rebel. And that's a victory in and of itself. But also, they just got a whole bunch of money in the process. But it's that moral ambiguity. And even just the emotions that they choose to communicate after we watch this big, exciting, edge-of-your-seat adventure, heist, victory, but at lots of costs. Both obvious ones of dead people, but also compromising people's morals to get there. And the emotion is laughter. And it plays so different in light of what we just saw versus the only information that he has right there in front of him. I think that's what this show does so well. So let's state the obvious. I really dug the episode. This is absolutely what I hoped Andor would be. This is it. They are delivering the show that I wanted it to be. And I don't know about if the week-to-week release is the best way to do kind of these 3 arc slow burns with so much setup. But I think the 3 episode arcs is absolutely the right way to do it. Because even you think of you just have to set up all of these little things about each member of the rebellion, the team of the rebels. You have to build in that lack of trust. All these different things for it to pay off when you get to the 3rd episode. When you get to the part where you're waiting to figure out who the traitor is, who's going to turn, why are they going to turn, why is this person doing this, why is this person nervous about that. You have to set all that up so that it actually pays off and works and is exciting when you get to the actual heist, the mission itself. And likewise, on the emotional level of just realizing the cost to get there, the costs of victory. And when you watch Star Wars A New Hope, when you watch Return of the Jedi, it's intentionally this good versus bad, black versus white. We're just seeing the people that get to be the clean heroes, just doing good, where we're able to be like, yeah, no, did Han Solo shoot first or not? That's the biggest moral question of the original trilogy, and this one just lives right there in the middle, where to be rebellion, to take down the Empire, to be spies, to do espionage, to essentially lead this terrorist movement against the Empire, you have to do some morally questionable things. And just taking that intro scene of Andor from Rogue One and like build a show out of that moral ambiguity. That's pretty cool, and it's working. And like the criticism of Rogue One back 6 years ago is that the characters were just pretty thin in what they were. And I think it fit the movie you were watching, but they're pretty thin. And that's fair. And then they build this show based off one of those thin characters and make it just the one with the characters with the most depth that we've seen in Star Wars, with the most nuance and complexity. And that doesn't mean best character. I'm still not, pulling our classic favorites out or anything like that. But just the most human in their complexity of everything kind of going on inside of them. Even Imperial officers have multiple layers to them. That's pretty cool. So I hope more and more people start checking this show out, because it's the show I've been waiting for, and it continues to be the show that I've wanted it to be. And I wanted that tease at the end of this episode, like a little bit more of a tease of what was going to be next. Because like, so what are we going to do now? What's our next thing that we're going to do? And it ended on just the proper note of just the reaction of everyone to this taking place, and just as that music kind of swelled, and you realize so much of the point of all of this was just to get the message out there. But like, I wanted more, because I was like, I'm so ready to see what's going on next. That's what you want with a show like this, so I'm totally digging it. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. Keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.